Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With episode 813 of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is Thursday, so you know exactly what that means. We are here to break down everything that happened across NXT and AEW over the last week. Both brands building to major television specials coming up over the next few weeks. For NXT, of course, that is Gold Rush, AEW, Blood and Guts. That only means we have plenty more to discuss on this episode of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. So, off the top, let's not waste any time as the Silver King reminds you that at this show,
it's all about the five.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Also, do not forget to follow us and subscribe to us on social media at Getting Overcast. On Twitter and Blue Sky, you can get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights. You can send in questions and comments for the show that we will read on the air. So make sure you follow us over there and subscribe to us on YouTube, where you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. Our latest with Natty Neidhart. We have another upcoming next week with someone who you watch on one of the shows that we're about to discuss today. Someone relatively prominent that the Silver King has been praising up and down recently. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on social media at Getting Overcast. We have, as usual, a lot to discuss on this episode. We have NXT and AEW both coming up. There are timestamps in the episode description, which you absolutely should be checking if you want to skip around or only listen to one show or the other. As always, though, I hope you listen to our breakdown on both programs. Regardless, NXT and AEW, plenty to discuss from both of them coming up.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And we actually have 2 items to hit before we get into everything today. First, Ridge Holland announced this week that WWE has released him from his expiring contract early after he, frankly, talked shit about them on social media for not extending his expiring contract while he was injured. And my response to that is, yeah, that's what happens. Like, this situation, it's extremely unfortunate for Ridge. He got injured wrestling in TNA while under contract to WWE. His release was obviously a long time coming from WWE, just given that he failed to get over or improve in any meaningful way since getting sent back down to NXT following his main roster call-up. But as I stated last time that we discussed Ridge, while the situation sucks for him as an individual, WWE and TKO as a company, they don't have an obligation to sign an independent contractor to a new deal simply because they are hurt. In professional sports, if an athlete tears his ACL in the middle of his last season on a contract, that team handles all his medical, but he becomes a free agent still. That's just how it goes. There are so many things to legitimately criticize WWE and TKO about. We talk about them on Tuesday's show all the time, from event locations to ticket prices to ad infiltration to the politicalization in some way of the WWE product. But neither of these revelations fit that bill of criticism. They were not under an obligation to re-sign Ridge just because he got hurt. And when someone under contract degrades their employer publicly, violating a non-disparagement agreement that is in their contract, they lose their job. That's common sense. I hope he's able to recover in full. I hope he's able to take care of his family financially. I hope he's able to continue his athletic career in some form or another. But when it comes to his complaints here, I understand him feeling that way, but it doesn't mean that he's entirely correct. And that's just the situation as it exists in reality. AEW, minutes before Dynamite on Wednesday, introduced on social media the National Championship, the company's 5th men's singles title, which is straight up mind-numbing. The hook here is that it's going to be defended in promotions all around the world, be them major or independent, in the United States, overseas. In other words, the positioning is precisely what AEW said the International Championship was going to be. But you're going to say, wait a minute, Silver King. The International Championship doesn't exist anymore, right? It's gone. Wrong. We were excited about the idea of the International and Continental titles being merged when Kazuchika Okada beat Kenny Omega. Except, despite Tony Khan introducing the newly designed unified title, he made crystal clear that the International and Continental Championships were not merged, but simply unified at that time. So the International title still exists. I presume the idea is that when the next Continental tournament runs, that someone else will win and that'll split them apart naturally. But regardless, this is AEW's third try in just over 3 years to establish a championship like this. It was the All-Atlantic failure, which leveled up to the International, thanks to Shazam Fury of the Gods. And now the National is part of the product. So what is the International title going to be once it gets separated from the Continental? And what will the value be of the Continental? And what the hell is the TNT title worth at this point? Really, the issue isn't the title's alignment, but the fact that it's the fifth men's singles title being introduced for a one-brand company. In other words, in WWE, you have Raw and SmackDown. The rosters are separate. The champions face people from their brands. Once or twice a year, does something special or different happen where that changes? Yes. But for 11 out of the 12 months, generally, let's just say on an average, they're separate rosters with people defending the titles against others from their brand. AEW is one amalgamated roster mess with 4 hours of TV for one brand. I saw a bunch of whataboutism from you-know-who specifically trying to count WWE's titles as a means of comparison, throwing in bullshit about Evolve, WWE ID, Speed, all this extra shit that doesn't exist on main roster television as a means of somehow justifying this absurdity for AEW. So I went ahead, Silver King, he put on the green accountant visor, and I did the real math for you, okay? AEW now has 10 main roster titles, 5 men's singles, 7 overall men's titles, and 3 for the women. So 50% of its titles are in the men's singles division, and 70% involve men. WWE presently has 11 main roster titles, 1 more. But they have 4 men's singles, 1 fewer, 6 overall men's, 1 fewer, and 5 for the women, 2 more. So 36%, 1/3, not half, are in the men's singles division, and 55%, just over half, not 3/4, involve men. But again, the key point is that WWE has 2 main roster brands, not 1. So the context, yes, context is important, of having that many titles, it makes more sense. Does that mean it's great? Should there be that many titles? Not an argument I'm having with you. Smart people can disagree about that. But the context of why they exist does make sense. And really, the only way to reduce WWE's titles would be to remove one of the men's tag team straps. That's the only equivalent division where there's not equivalent amounts of titles. But they're not going to do that. They tried it once, it failed. NXT, Ring of Honor, Evolve, all that stuff is superfluous when you talk about the main rosters. But there's also another distinction to be made. AEW puts ROH titles and title matches on its main shows. So you could actually up that number if you wanted. WWE does not do that with NXT. Dominic Mysterio, as AAA Mega Champion, he does have that strap appearing right now on the main roster. He hasn't defended it on TV once. Now, will he at Survivor Series? It's quite possible, right? And that's going to be a change of the calculation if we were going to go so far as to continue doing this. But AEW has Ring of Honor titles defended on TV all the time. It used to have it a lot more in the past. They've really thinned down on it, and kudos to them for doing that. But the comparison with putting the ROH and other promotional titles on AEW TV, that's what's currently happening in NXT with AAA and TNA. But again, NXT is not the main roster. It's the third show. You can call it developmental. You can call it whatever you want. It's not the main roster. And if you're going to make those comparisons, that's when you would then make them. So when these conversations and comparisons are put together, you need to not only provide context, but make the comparisons as apples to apples as possible. And that is AEW main roster versus WWE main roster. 4 hours of TV for one versus 4.5 hours of TV for two. 10 titles with 5 men's singles for AEW, 11 titles with 4 men's singles for WWE. And that blatantly shows you how ridiculous it is to add this national title to the AEW roster of belts. And by the way, it is so AEW to literally announce the creation of a new championship while in the midst of a tournament for another newly created championship that was just announced weeks prior. We're not talking about equivalent titles like when WWE did the Intercontinental and United States for the women, but completely different straps. So basically, they're going to introduce 2 new champions at Full Gear just because. It's a joke, man. It really is. Not a joke is what getting over can offer you if you simply remember.
I happen to love the number 5.
Because I sure hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You're supporting the continuation of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We remain a free show, and we would greatly appreciate that type of financial assistance. Plus, you get bonus content too. So with that said, let's move into our full breakdowns of NXT and AEW. One more reminder, there are timestamps in the episode description if you do wish to visit them. But as always, we do hope you listen to the entire show. Kicking it off with NXT. Ricky Saints and Trick Williams had a sit-down, split-screen interview segment ahead of their NXT Championship Last Man Standing match, which is indeed being held next week on TV from the WWE Performance Center rather than in 2 weeks at Gold Rush, an event that was specifically announced as being filmed with title defenses across multiple brands. It is completely illogical to run this match next week. No, it does not make a shred of sense in kayfabe or reality. Trick said the title is too big for Ricky. He's not built to carry it. Saints clarified that Williams is the one who threw a fit as a sore loser last week. He can't handle being second best. Trick said that's because he's second to none, and Ricky doesn't know what it takes to lead NXT. Saints responded that Williams has been disrespecting NXT. He's had 1 foot out the door for years, whereas Ricky first saw the title as an achievement, but now he sees it as an opportunity to take the brand to new heights. Trick said Ricky looks like a fan. He should be buying a title from WWE Shop. That's cold. Saints said that Williams wears delusion so well, it must be designer. Great line. And they both got up from their chairs, meeting backstage in a taped, almost cinematic brawl that ended with Trick hitting a home run, swinging a steel pipe like a bat, hitting Ricky in the stomach. This was actually great, even if it was a bit overproduced. Their perspectives and lines here were probably stronger in a vacuum than any of the individual segments they had done together previously. There is hype and anticipation for the rematch, no doubt. But again, I do not understand why it's happening at the WWE Performance Center as opposed to the theater at Madison Square Garden on a special show. That just does not compute. Maybe we will find out why next week. Tatum Paxley, Izzy Dame, and Lola Vice fought Fatal Influence. This opened the show. The heels got their entrance back finally, but Lainey Reed missed her time cue and didn't really do anything interesting when she was on screen. Tatum and Lola made Izzy do Vice's dance. It was pretty chaotic overall. Dame had a nice flying code breaker only to eat a blockbuster from Fallon Henley upon landing. Izzy blind tagged Tatum late in the match, legitimately trying to help, but Paxley got confused as she was working offensively. JC Jane took advantage with another rolling encore, aimed for the back of Tatum's head, except Izzy threw her out of the way and ate the blow herself, just like what happened at Halloween Havoc. Nice callback in the finish. A sensible result, as the face side winning would have basically been worthless. I'm enjoying how Dame is not playing the jealous, manipulative, fake friend, at least not yet. Everyone assumed that she had nefarious intentions from the beginning when she recruited Tatum and then had sour grapes that she got the title match and won the championship instead of Izzy. But we're not getting that right now in terms of her character, and that's pretty interesting. Influence continues to be great, at least, JC and Fallon. I simply do not understand the third. Stop trying to make Lainey Reed happen. She's not going to happen.
Stop trying to make fetch happen. It's not going to happen.
Jane and Henley, I may just have to repeat this every single week until it happens. They are not only ready for the main roster today, they've been ready for the main roster for months. Fallon's been ready for over a year. This needs to be their final run in NXT, going up to the main roster together without that extra baggage. Real strong opener to the show. It set the energy high for what was to come later. Backstage, Jane told Ava she wanted her rematch with Paxley at Gold Rush before she got any other dumb ideas, I presume referring to the wheel. Ava declined to make a decision, saying she had another pressing matter to handle. I mean, we all know she's just going to make the match because she always does whatever the talent wants, so what exactly are we waiting for here? Tatum later backstage threw a bit of a fit, blaming herself for Izzy getting hurt and their team losing the match. Dame calmed her down, explaining how this is a paradigm of her decision-making problems. She's doing it all based on her emotions. She needs to be a smarter champion, not an irrational one, handing out opportunities on a whim. Izzy told Tatum that she needs to think before she acts. That way she can retain the title as long as possible. And Paxley finally agreed, as Dame and the guys all appeared to be legitimately supporting her. Tatum promised to be more selective after next week because there's one thing she needs to do in order to feel satisfied. This was actually a really cute segment, and it did a lot to develop the Culling relationship and somewhat newfound status as apparent baby faces. It was actually one of the better parts of the show Tuesday. Ren Sinclair welcomed Kendall Gray to the Ren QCC off the back of her win over Lash Legend. Carmen Petrovic and Tyra May Steele were all peppy and happy for them as Sinclair announced she was in the women's speed tournament. Then Kalani Jordan came through acting like a big shot, saying they'll all learn eventually. What they're going to learn, I have no idea. NXT really needs to establish more like what Ren QCC is going to be, because right now it's just Sinclair saying it. I have no doubt Carmen will wind up joining them. Tyra was kind of an outlier here, just considering she hasn't been involved with them in any prior segments. And I'm starting to wonder if what Ren QCC ends up being is basically an inverse of what it was. Like Ren and Charlie leading a group of two women as opposed to a pair of men, basically. So they're just like reformatting it as a women's faction where instead of Ren being the odd woman out, it's Charlie who's the odd man out. And that would be pretty cool if they do go in that direction. Jordan Gray showed off legitimate bruising from the Lonnie title shot last week. And Lei Ying Lee, the former Xia Li, I hope I said that right, by the way, cut a promo saying Lonnie brought shame onto herself in the Knockouts Championship by cheating to win. Lonnie then hit the ring, wearing braids, getting heavily booed, saying the title may have been out of character for her, using the title, but she had to retain it by any means necessary. Lonnie asked, why do Dominic Mysterio and Cody Rhodes get cheered when they cheat, but everyone has a problem with me? She said she wanted to hold the title with honor, unlike Trick Williams, who trashed it, and all that's gotten her so far is bullying, name-calling, and boos from the fans. Lonnie called everyone hypocrites, saying she got kicked out of the locker room by women who don't have half her resume. She called herself the standout, saying no one can keep up with her, and it's not about fat asses or catchphrases, but being the most elite athlete. Excuse me, what precisely is wrong with fat asses and catchphrases? I like fat asses and catchphrases.
That's the most action I've had all year.
Lonnie recalled Grace getting booed out of the building until she fought her, saying those in attendance weren't fans but followers. She said she won't be defending her title at Gold Rush because she's going to be selfish and no one has earned it yet. Then she dropped the mic and left. This was a sink or swim moment for Lonnie, and she swam. I'm not saying she was Katie Ledecky out there, but she swam. Lonnie does need to figure out how to drop her voice so she doesn't sound like a teenager. Girl's 27 years old. But the content was on point, the delivery was improved, and most importantly, you could tell she went out there confident in what she was saying. That's most of what it takes to be believable. Lonnie slipped up a couple times, but hell, so does LA Knight. Every single time he cuts a promo, and he's among the best in the game. Perhaps most important is that there's no more ambiguity about her face, heel, tweener positioning. She's a heel. And just like many others who came before her, Roxanne Perez for one, this is a necessary turn to not only round her out as a character and personality, but give her enough experience to succeed on the main roster. Next up will be wrestling full matches and telling stories as a heel, which is going to be important on its own. I feel like I've been critical, yet completely fair covering Lani her entire career to this point. And as was the case with Trick, it's legitimately great to see her finally taking that next step. But now she needs to deliver upon it and prove that, yes, she is the standout because she has a lot of star-making traits. She just doesn't have the entire package yet. And by the way, the standout, I love that as a nickname for her. Fantastic. Build on it. Be a real heel. Drop your voice a little bit. And let's see if you can swim like Katie Ledecky instead of just kind of being a minnow in the water. Zarya beat Ren in 2:30. That's the speed match we were talking about. There are only 4 participants, by the way, in this women's speed tournament, which isn't really a tournament. It's like qualifying. Ren got an armbar on Zarya, but ultimately ate a spear and an F5, which may or may not be called Zone of Destruction in the finish. Sinclair has only wrestled one match on NXT that has exceeded 5 minutes since she debuted 21 months ago. She hasn't wrestled any of them in 13 months. She's extremely talented bell to bell, a great character. She looks good. Her usage and positioning does not make a shred of sense to me. There was a bit of tension between Zarya and Sol Ruca here after the match, almost like a told you so type of deal. The next match is going to be Fallon Henley, I'm assuming, beating Skylar Ray, who's making her NXT debut next week after winning season 2 of LFG. And then I assume we're going to get Zarya against Fallon in the final, and we'll see what happens there. Fingers crossed that Fallon does not win. Normally I would root for her, but not when it comes to speed. Sol backstage tried to get Ava to give her a rematch with Blake Monroe at Gold Rush, but Ava said Ruka knows she's still a month away from being fully cleared, and she just can't book it. I just want you guys to pay attention to everything I say in this segment, okay? Ava just told her she's a month away from being fully cleared, and that's not a match she can book, which is correct. She literally relinquished a second title last week. That would have made no sense to put her in this match, and this match better not happen. Zarya also got into it with Henley, who showed up with Jane, as I mentioned earlier. Monroe later told Ava she badly wanted her first title defense at Gold Rush. Ava said, yeah, well, if Sol gets cleared, she'll be her challenger. Wait, I thought you literally just said she's a month away from full clearance and you weren't going to put her in that position. So Blake says, well, yeah, sure, but she's not getting cleared. So Ava's like, yeah, but if she does get cleared, she's your challenger because she never lost the title. I feel like I'm legitimately losing my mind. Zarya defended Sol's North American title 10 days ago, as of Tuesday, to stop her from relinquishing it. If there's even a chance for her to be cleared inside of a month, why would a GM even suggest that as a possibility? And why would she relinquish the speed title literally last Tuesday if she's going to be cleared in 2 weeks? Sol is effectively vacating 2 championships to wrestle 24 days later.
What is going on?
Who thought this made sense? What was the purpose of doing this? To protect Sol from losing to Blake? Why? She's a relative neophyte wrestler. It's a developmental territory. Neither she nor Zarya turned because of it. I'm stunned, not only at this overall booking, but the 2 segments we're discussing here from Tuesday night. Sol, I want to fight. Ava, doctor says no. Sol, okay, but what if he says yes? Ava, he's not going to. Blake, I want to defend my title. Ava, okay, you can defend it against a girl who's not going to get cleared. Blake, but you said she's not going to get cleared. Ava, but what if she is cleared? Silver King, you just said she's not going to be.
That is one big pile of shit.
Completely unnecessary, convoluted garbage that has not helped any of these women. It's an absolute mess creatively. It doesn't make any sense. Shame on you all.
Market zero!
It's not like Sol got injured and they weren't sure about her status, so they had to come up with something in the interim. If they did, I'd be understanding to a degree. This was a total kayfabe injury on SmackDown. Also, Blake separately is teasing something about meeting her better half next week. I have no idea what that's going to be. That term generally refers to a significant other, but I'm thinking it's going to be a play on it, like herself in a mirror, Snow White adjacent. I guess we'll find out. Ava later approached Lani, asking her to visit her office. She instead wanted to talk publicly, so Ava explained when and where Lani defends her title is not her decision. Lani shot back. She's like, it's not yours either. It's a TNA decision. So Tyra called her out for acting an ass. Lani said she's just calling it like it is. She's the most gifted athlete in any room she enters, including that one, even though she's an Olympian. And that obviously got steel heated. Ava booked a match accordingly. So we had Lani against Tyra, non-title match. Lani really needs to time up that powdered hand clap better with her entrance theme. She's always like a half second behind. Tyra being in less blatantly American gear was positive. Lani straight up booted Steel in the face on a super kick. Tyra landed an inverted Samoan drop or Olympic slam, which was a real nice remix to the move. But Lani caught her with one of a kind to win. Steel definitely has potential. It just needs to be realized. She's coming along slower than I expected, but she is coming along nonetheless. Lani badly needs new music as a heel. Santino Marella then appeared on the Titantron after the bell, announcing that Lani does not get to dictate the terms of her championship, and she will be defending the title at Gold Rush in a triple threat against Grace and Lee. Certainly better than just putting Lani and Lee on an NXT show with that moniker. Glad Jordan is still involved in this, but we do need to figure out what the hell they're going to be doing with Grace, because she's not going to win this. So it's another title match loss for her that's going to be coming, and those are piling up to make her look like not a legit contender on this brand. We had Javon Evans against Saquon Sugars. Evans hit a tope con hero on the entirety of Dark State as Sugars led their entrance to the ring. Fire start. Javon did a step-off springboard hurricanrana, another regular springboard in succession with Saquon flying outside. Dion Lennox yelled at him to focus, but Evans continued destroying him with a slingshot splash over the ropes. Sugars later did a Falcon Arrow, moved into a cartwheel basement dropkick, which was really cool. Javon was later beating Saquon down in the corner when Dion pulled his boy out of the ring, so Evans hit a huge tope suicida that was so athletic and bouncy, he not only overshot him, but he came out of his shoe. Javon hit a massive springboard lariat 3/4 of the way across the ring, followed by Red Dot. Sugars answered with an inverted fireman's carry facebuster, but chose not to cover, instead attempting, I believe, a backwards frog splash. Evans avoided that. He had a cutter, then he had a springboard cutter, only for Dark State to interfere. Javon avoided all three of them, respectively, into the ring post, barricade, and announce table. So there was no DQ since they didn't actually punch him outside of pulling his leg out of the ring, but that's not a strike. Javon then landed his double springboard tornado splash for the win. What a freaking performance by Javon Evans, man. This kid is as special as it gets, okay? I've been watching wrestling for 3 decades. In that time, there is only one wrestler I can remember who performed this consistently well at this high of a level at such a young age on national television. His name is Rey Mysterio. That's the list. Rey was a bit more experienced wrestling, and he was doing it at a higher level against other veteran talent, and he was doing it on WCW Monday Nitro in a far bigger audience. So it's not even a fair comparison. But Javon has more personality and character at this age than Rey did, and he's got a style all his own, just like Rey. He's a one-of-one type of dude. And it's almost a gift to not just watch him each week, but to be actively witnessing the development of a kid who's going to be a big-time WWE superstar. And we're seeing it in real time. There was some unexpectedly clunky, slow spots early in this match, considering these are two talented guys who had experience wrestling one another before joining WWE. In fact, on our social media, at Getting Overcast, we posted a link to their final match for DPW that they went all out for. It was the conclusion of their feud. Make sure you watch it. It's the main event. It's a 30-minute main event. But by the end of this match, Sugars was operating pretty close to Evans' level, and he did a great job not only selling for Javon, but working the heel side of the match. To me, he seems to be a more natural babyface, Sugars, in the ring. Regardless, this banged. It was the best thing on NXT Tuesday night, and I'm so glad Saquon finally got a spotlight all to himself, because he and Dion, I've said this multiple times, they're the only main roster caliber dudes in Dark State. Javon was made to look like a hero the way this match finished. 3.75 stars, B+. I would seek this match out if you don't regularly watch NXT. Just witness the future, man. Witness the future. Now, I will say in storyline, it didn't make much sense to do the finish this way. Dark State destroyed them 4-on-2 at Bound for Glory. Then they beat the Hardys. Now Javon and Leon Slater want revenge, but Evans already got revenge himself 1-on-4. So what do you need Slater back, Dark State's going to need to beat the shit out of Javon next week, unless the goal is to vanquish them quickly and then change the titles at Gold Rush. But that would feel like a relative burial considering they just won the straps back from the Hardys. There were some great parts of this Javon-Saquon match during commercial break, which I was able to watch live because I was viewing NXT on Netflix rather than the CW, made possible because I signed up for NordVPN. Whether it's Raw, SmackDown, and NXT or premium live events on Netflix, even Saturday night's main event on YouTube, I am all in with NordVPN. It's easy to set up and a drastically better viewing experience with high-quality streams and commercial-free shows. All you have to do is sign up at nordvpn.com/gettingover. You sign up, you open the app, you quick connect to another country like Canada, you open Netflix, and you watch the show. It's really that simple. That's just the WWE aspect, though. You can save money on AEW pay-per-views, and you can watch other sporting events that don't air in your home region. NordVPN also allows you to get around online censorship and surveillance, protect your private data when web browsing, and avoid online threats. Plus, one NordVPN account, it can be used on 10 devices. To get the best discount from NordVPN, go to nordvpn.com/gettingover. Our link will give you 4 extra free months off the 2-year plan, and there's no risk. Nord has a 30-day money-back guarantee. So improve your WWE viewing, save money, browse safer online, and get the best discount for the best VPN at nordvpn.com/gettingover. It is great to have NordVPN as the official singular sponsor of your boys right here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. Now, continuing from there, Chelsea Green and Ethan Page over the weekend won the AAA Mixed Tag Team Championships off La Hiedra and Mr. Iguana, which is obviously a move WWE had no choice but to make because Chelsea and Ethan have been incredible together. They had a Muy Grande double championship celebration as the main event, which made me believe something major was going to happen. Chelsea, in this segment,
Gonna look good, but she's got me saying, hey now!
I mean, my lord. Page bragged about their guarantees coming true and his greatness as a double champion. Green said everyone despises them and jealousy is a disease because there's no more iconic duo who could take over the industry in the same way. Page said they plan to defend the titles against anybody and everybody to prove they're the best duo. Chelsea said she just wished Joe was there, not saying the whole name because there was a fake cake in the ring and they expected him to come out of it. So they picked up kendo sticks ready to attack when he appeared, except Alba Fire said his name and he just walked out from backstage normally. I'm talking about Joe Hendry here. Page asked why he was there, if he wanted a North American title shot or something, but Hendry said he was focused on their new straps instead. And he brought out Thea Hale, who appeared out of the cake, getting her own I Believe in Thea remix to the song. Silver King is not a singer. It ended there with 3 pies to the face. Somewhere, Toni Storm was shaking uncontrollably. On one hand, I love the goofiness of Thea with Joe, especially because it gets her back on TV in something meaningful with a talented woman to work against in Chelsea. On the other hand, the second half of this segment, it was just kind of dumb. Like, why would Chelsea want to say Joe's name unprompted? Why would Ethan actively want to defend his title as a heel? The first half with Paige and Green talking shit, that was great. But for me, the construction of the conclusion, it just completely fell apart. Maybe I'm being a stick in the mud, I'll admit. Ultimately, it feels like a thrown together match for a TV special, and it was teased last week in the backstage segment. But I don't know what it is, man. Maybe I'm just out on Hendry on this gimmick. The 15 minutes of fame it garnered are long past. Now it's kind of repetitive in one note, except it's weekly in WWE instead of occasionally on my social media. And when it was occasionally on my social media, I was enjoying it. When it's weekly in WWE, it's like, I've seen this. Okay, he's coming out of a cake instead of a trash can. Like, what's the difference besides that, right? I hate to say it, okay? If WWE does sign him, which it seems like they're going to, it might be a bad move. Like, they may be signing someone who's 15 minutes or over. I hope I'm wrong about that. I hope dude can reinvent himself, but that was my thought coming out of this segment. By the way, this may be the exception to my complaints about other brands and titles being shoved onto NXT simply because Ethan and Chelsea are so incredible together. And this could be an inflection point for WWE to go back into mixed tag team content. Don't forget, the mixed tag team challenge was incredible when it existed. Though, if you think about it, this match, it's going to have 2 NXT wrestlers, a SmackDown superstar, and a TNA contracted wrestler, all fighting for a AAA title. It's getting ridiculous, folks. Out the Mud backstage said they're chasing chucks and championships, ready to step on anyone's throat if they get in their way, since they don't know struggle like them. Chase U came in wanting to fight, with Andre Trace trying to cool them down, angry they're not listening to him. Interesting that OTM used the Booker T line here, but it works. Their vibe is right. They have a good look. The promo was actually decent, even if it was heavily rehearsed. They just need to put it all together between the ropes. It does seem like they will probably be tag team champions sooner than later. In terms of Chase U, the reinvention of it has been an abject failure. I don't know why they haven't scrapped it. It's kind of sad, honestly. Los Americanos entered the NXT locker room with El Grande, the only one speaking Spanish. Josh Briggs got angry. He touched his bag, saying El Grande may wind up beating a rookie in Jasper Troy in a speed match, but he won't stand a chance against him in a regulation bout. I suppose Briggs understands Spanish because El Grande didn't say a word of English, but he was like intently listening to him. El Grande did call him a pinche gringo, which was quite funny on its own. Obviously, I'm fine with these guys being down in NXT as a concept, but again, the speed shit is ridiculous and it's a total waste of time. So we had El Grande against Briggs. Americano was a big time face here, and putting him against Briggs solidified that, which is obviously an interesting turn considering he's a face in NXT, he's a face in AAA, but he's a heel on the main roster. Tavian Heights wearing a weird, tiny, like Pharrell-style backpack distracted the referee as Los Americanos did a double backstabber ringside. El Grande then earned a tap-out submission victory with an ankle lock bridge backwards, wrenching the neck. Jasper's dumb effing chains rattled in the background this entire segment. Please get rid of those things or use fake ones, like rubber ones that don't make noise. I wanted to mute the broadcast so bad. It's horrible audio and completely absurd. The match and segment didn't do anything for me. It's odd that El Grande is fighting a better opponent in a regular match this week before doing the speed deal next week. And this speed gimmick, I say it every week, man, it is seriously hurting my enjoyment of NXT. But this was overall a solid episode of NXT, all things considered. Super entertaining, a lot of stuff developing, both for Gold Rush and for television. So it was positive. It's just, there's some of these individual storytelling items that they really do need to clean up. But having less TNA and AAA on the show this week was a massive positive. Less Evolve, there was no LFG. So it was just a step in the right direction from that standpoint. But I can't count on that being the case next week in the Go Home to Gold Rush. Obviously, both Gold Rush episodes are going to have multiple defenses. Fingers crossed that coming out of it, as they build for the end of the year with NXT deadline and going into 2026, they understand that they need to cut this ship back. So that allows us to move over to AEW. Interestingly, the crowd for Collision was pitch black the entire show. This was not exactly the case on Dynamite, but it was way darker than it used to be, particularly the lower level of this venue. That's because fewer than 2,000 people were there. But I'll tell you what, just being candid, I'd have done the exact same thing. When there's fewer people, it does look better when it's darker. AEW decided to run a pair of best-of-3 series to determine the advantages for the Blood and Guts matches. Interesting idea to get competitors involved with one another, put meaningful matches on TV that have a level of relevance. It led me to wonder whether this was done just to put our match relevancy percentage higher. I say that in a joke-serious fashion. However, 6 of 11 matches this week had storyline relevance, mostly the fault of Collision being another thrown-together card. Still, that's only 55% relevance, which is down from last week when it looked like AEW had turned a corner. And that's despite the advantage matches being created seemingly at the last minute and all of those actually being relevant. So let's go ahead and break down everything that happened across Dynamite and Collision. First couple matches here on Dynamite, Claudio Castagnoli beat Orange Cassidy to open the show. Did not expect this result, which made it hit better. He won with an exceptional pop-up European uppercut in which Orange got a ton of air. This was great. One of my favorite hard-hitting AEW matches in a long time. Death Rider's team took the 1-0 edge afterward, 3.75 stars B+. Then you had Darby Allin beat Daniel Garcia to even the series 1-1. Good thing this was second because the result of Claudio Orange would have been obvious otherwise. Garcia, as of right now, he is such a kayfabe loser, man. Changes factions, turns heel, still loses everything. There was a nice Dragon Slayer reverse into a Scorpion Deathlock. That was the finish. Pac attacked immediately after the bell. I legitimately thought he was Wheeler Yuta just due to his hair. Orange saved, which neither he nor anyone else did during Darby's feud with Jon Moxley. Then Yuta and Claudio attacked with Roderick Strong and Kyle O'Reilly saving, only for Mox to come out. Then Roddy hit a jump knee on Mox, which I shit you not, sent the entire heel faction running for the hills. They had a 5-on-2 advantage in the ring with no weapon present, and they ran away because Roddy hit a pump knee on Mox. What am I supposed to say about this? How am I supposed to put a positive twist on something that is this illogical and stupid? Luckily, I thought most of Dynamite and parts of Collision were really good, so I have plenty of praise to offer this week. Just not here. Not at all. On Dynamite, the Ops interrupted Tony Schiavone to open the show, and I'm on my couch praying that they're on their way to forcing him into an early retirement. 5 security guards come out to protect Tony, as did Hangman Page, and then Hook, and then Eddie Kingston with a crutch. Why does he have a crutch when he's completely recovered from his injury? That I cannot tell you. Page said he beat Joe's ass in his Wranglers, or he would beat Joe's ass in his Wranglers. Hook then mumbled through a promo challenging for the trio's titles. Joe went way overboard, snapping at that remark, accepting the challenge. It was announced as official maybe less than 5 seconds later. Awful opening segment. I'm fine with the concept of them challenging for the titles, being the main event, all that. But the booking was shit. Real lackluster. Page, for me, he does not work as champion. I know others love it. I do not. On Dynamite, trios titles on the line in the main event. The Ops obviously retained over Page, Hook, and Kingston. Best spot of the match was Powerhouse Hobbs murking Page with a World's Strongest Slam off the stage through a table on the floor. It was a curiosity, though, why Hobbs did that to Page rather than Joe, who's actually challenging for the title. This actually made me more interested in Hangman and Hobbs, but I would also be incredibly annoyed if Page runs through this group defending his title one after another when you know he's just going to beat all of them. Anyway, Hobbs ended the match making Hook submit with a torture rack. I haven't seen that finish in a long time, and I loved it. The booking includes Hook tapping out twice in as many weeks to lose matches to Ops members. So maybe he turns heel and rejoins them. I'm not sure why else they would be booking him in this manner when Kingston easily could have taken the fall. Less than 30 seconds after the bell, Hangman Hobbs in a Falls Count Anywhere match was announced for next week. So they're going to have Falls Count Anywhere and Blood and Guts on the same show with no real reason for Falls Count Anywhere being the stipulation outside of a single spot. Meaning, it's not like Hangman and Hobbs had a long feud and now they're going to that stipulation. But this match also was announced again within seconds. This is the type of shit that's so frustrating with AEW's booking from just a logical standpoint. Really, a logistical standpoint. I'm glad we're getting the match, but of course we know how it's going to end. On Collision, Commander Mark Briscoe and Strong beat LFI in a 6-man match for reasons. Woof. On Collision, Kazuchika Okada and Konosuke Takeshita beat the Acclaimed. This match going 14 minutes seemed ridiculous, but there was a lot of infighting between each team. The idea being this match featured partners on two sides of the same coin who hate each other. It was actually one of the better storytelling bouts that AEW has done in quite some time. And as I said last week, I'm into the Okada-Takeshita effort. Acclaimed physically fought each other in the match that led to a Rainmaker, and then an interrupted Rainmaker with a blind tag and Raging Fire to end it. One of the more interesting Collision segments or matches, I want to say in months. On Collision, Don Callis backstage again pitched the Young Bucks about joining his family, saying he successfully negotiated a $1 million tag team match for Full Gear. The Bucks and Josh Alexander against Jurassic Express and Kenny Omega. And I think he said the Bucks could keep the entire $1 million if they do the match. The Bucks seemed none too thrilled with fighting Omega, but their expressions weren't completely clear. Commentary said they were speechless because of this. Me too, guys. Me too. Tony Khan spending another $1 million on a money match for no reason whatsoever, thinking it's legitimate or an interesting stipulation. He'll now have spent $5 million in kayfabe money for no reason whatsoever. And it's not like it randomly happens once every 6 to 8 weeks. It's every effing week. This shit is so dumb.
Come on, Oos. It's a joke, right? It's a joke, Oos. You ribbing me?
There was another backstage segment on Dynamite with Callis saying he hated how the Bucks were treated like marks and jobbers by AEW because they deserve top-tier treatment like the rest of his family. The family, including Okada, then came in to convince them, but the Bucks insisted they would decide after the money match. I presume the end of this is them turning babyface. Otherwise, what is the point? Jurassic Express later cut an extremely brief promo where Jungle Jack stabbed a dollar bill into a piece of wood with a knife. Such a badass, man. Such a badass. On Dynamite, there was a backstage confrontation between Briscoe and Kyle Fletcher in which no physicality was promised by both sides. Briscoe's contention was that Fletcher cannot be fulfilled from beating him with a low blow at WrestleDream, so they should rematch in a no disqualification match for the TNT title at Full Gear. Callis said he would approve it only if there was something in it for him. Briscoe leaving conglomeration forever and joining the family if he loses. I love the stipulation. Here's the problem with it. The most exciting booking is Briscoe in the Callis family, playing up the absurd number of members, maybe Briscoe actually liking it for a while, then he turns back face. That's the fun part of this booking. Unfortunately, I presume the stipulation is just guaranteeing he actually wins the titles. It will also be interesting, since it's no DQ, whether members of these factions get involved. But let's not be pessimistic until we see how it's actually booked. They wrestled extremely well together every single time they've done it, so the match is going to be a banger. It's going to be repetitive to a degree. But again, let's see the finish, let's see what the booking is, and then we'll talk about it after Full Gear. On Collision, the CMLL Women's Championship was on the line. This goes to what we were talking about earlier. Mercedes Moné retaining over Olympia, having this random challenger win a squash, and then cut a 30-second promo while going after another promotion's title. That was not enough for me to give this relevancy credit. Sorry. Chris Statlander was on commentary here, which led to a confrontation before Moné escaped with the win. Stat was back wearing a weird alien thing on her face after not doing so the prior week. On Dynamite, Harley Cameron and Willow Nightingale beat Mercedes and Athena in the tag team tournament. The Faces cut a comedy promo on Collision, doing the whole what if we win type of deal. It was okay. Moné put Cameron in statement maker with Athena just standing around. That way Nightingale could pounce her into a broken fall. Athena caught both women for a combination Samoan drop follow-away slam executed to perfection, especially due to her size. One of my favorite spots of the entire week. Stat clothesline Billy Starks ringside. Mercedes then got chased around the ring. That allowed the Faces to a Dr. Bomb and Harley's finisher for the upset victory. Obviously, it would be Athena taking the fall and not Moné. Nice upset booking, though. It's more fun to have someone do an upset run in a tournament than just have the best of the best always advance. They now have a legitimate shot to go to the finals, considering they're going to be facing Sisters of Sin in their next match. Now, Sisters of Sin, a real tag team, should win, especially because they're in a group that's being pushed. I have a feeling that it's going to be Willow and Harley. I enjoyed this. On Collision, Marina Shafir and Megan Bayne beat Miranda Alizé and Nixon Newell in less than 2.5 minutes. Mox watched from commentary. This was awful. I did not enjoy this. Bayne successfully hit a strong Liger bomb, but Shafir and Newell seemed to botch whatever her submission or finisher was supposed to be. Mox contributed nothing on commentary. Shafir just flicked off the fans for 30 seconds after the bell. Yikes. On Collision, the women's Blood and Guts match was announced as having a, quote, expanded field, featuring, get this, Stat, Storm, Willow, and Harley, plus Queen Aminata, against Mercedes, Shafir, Bayne, and Triangle of Madness. No storyline into the match. No on-screen segment. Literally just a taped announcement voiced by Renee. Some of the women involved in this match were not even close to being part of those 6, 8, 10 women matches that AEW was running every single week, sometimes twice a week, to build the tag team division and create reason for Blood and Guts. This is just completely ridiculous. And that's not to mention the fact that there's now going to be 12 people involved with the champions in there as well for literally no reason whatsoever. I guess the reason is they want the first one to be the biggest one. So AEW wants all the major female names to be part of it. But that's not how this match was being built for months. This freaking women's division, man, they cannot book it for shit. Bayne then beat Mina Shirakawa in the first best of 3 series match for the women's Blood and Guts advantage. No, I did not say Mina's name before. She's replacing Aminata, who suffered an injury and got taken out of the match. So yes, another competitor who has absolutely nothing to do with the entire reason for this match originally happening. I still gave this relevancy credit as a technicality because it was one of the advantage matches. Tony was on commentary. She had pre-planned crude lines. She did have a good one, though, about Bryan Danielson wearing hemp cologne. The sides brawled after the match to try to create some momentum for Blood and Guts. It really is a bunch of whatever. On Dynamite, Hurt Syndicate hit the ring to talk about the new national title, which will be contested in a casino gauntlet at Full Gear. MVP immediately misnamed it. He said it was the international title. Tough to blame him. That's the absurdity of this new title. He explained how Bobby Lashley and Shelton Benjamin have declared themselves for the casino gauntlet match to determine the first champion. The demand interrupted with Ricochet legitimately saying a bunch of nothing. MVP started screaming at him. He pointed out how all they've accomplished is getting their asses kicked time and again by the Syndicate. Ricochet then said he would be in the match. Ricochet and Demand had made some progress over time. They were taking small steps in the right direction. This was a massive step in the wrong direction for all three of them. This feud, still continuing after them wrestling another match recently and losing, is straight up insanity. It needs to be over after the gauntlet for the sake of all of these guys, the AEW product, and my sanity. By the way, let's talk about the Casino Gauntlet just for a second. It's a tremendous match concept. Probably the most fun, interesting new match type that AEW introduced, because you never know when it's going to end, and it's super exciting, and they have great wrestling talent, so you can do some crazy shit. But there is a major problem of overuse happening. This is going to be the 5th Casino Gauntlet in 2025 alone, the 9th in the last 2 years. When it debuted, they did a sick one on Dynamite and a similarly great one at All in London. I'm not going to say they've been progressively getting worse since, but all of them since those have been relatively equal in terms of being mediocre. I presume since this is for a new title, it's going to be booked extremely well, but there's a reason why companies shouldn't do gauntlets all the time, or constant tournaments, or 5 last man standing matches, which is something I'm criticizing WWE about on our Tuesday show. There's another last man standing, and it's like, why? Why do we keep getting last man standing? You don't need to do it. Now that I think about it, I haven't been criticizing WWE about it only on the Tuesday show. I criticized it last week here on the NXT portion of the show, because that's what they're doing, I believe, with Ricky Saints and Trick Williams. It's too much. Overuse is bad. Be creative and come up with other concepts. I love the idea of a casino gauntlet determining the first national champion in a vacuum. The problem is they've already done it 4 other times this year. On Collision, the ROH title was on the line again, something we were talking about earlier in the show. Bandito retained over Mascara Dorada in a 23-minute main event. This was the match of the week on AEW TV. I believe the reasoning for it happening, I shit you not, is that Dorada wrestled really well at All Out. Like, I think that was the entire genesis of his contendership. Between 4 and 4.25 stars, A on this. High-level work from both guys. The most entertaining part of Collision by far on Saturday. On Dynamite, FTR hit the ring, purposefully not speaking to try and draw boos before they raised their mics, but they were super light boos. Then they screamed on the mic as if they were yelling over the boos, but the volume didn't change. They challenged Brodito to meet them in the ring, but they were locked in their room with Stokely by the door. Bandito's family was in the crowd, so they insulted the mother, calling her old and stuff like that. They started beating up his brother, so Brody King punched through the door like it was a comic book, and somehow that allowed them to get out of the room, which didn't make sense because you would have needed a key to open the door, which they still didn't have. Anyway, this was one of the better FTR talking segments this year. Like, the way they shit-talked the grandma or the mother was very funny, but the logic behind it, and Brody, the whole deal, that was kind of silly. And lastly, on Collision, the Bang Bang Gang beat MXMTV in less than 4 minutes. I said woof earlier, so here I'll say double woof. And that wraps up this week's edition of the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast Thursday show, where we, of course, cover all things NXT and AEW. Next week, we will be back on Tuesday talking WWE, and then on Thursday, covering NXT and AEW, as we always do. On the way out, first, let me thank our sponsor, NordVPN. Again, you can get 4 free months on that 2-year deal at nordvpn.com/gettingover. But I do need to remind you that here at Getting Over,
It's all about Defied.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. Don't forget to follow us on social media at Getting Overcast on Twitter and Blue Sky. You get episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can also send in questions and comments for the show. On YouTube, when you subscribe, you can listen to full-length audio episodes and watch full-length video interviews. Our latest with Natty Neidhart is waiting for your eye holes and your ear holes. And then next week, I believe it's going to be in this space, so I'll say same bat time, same bat channel, will be our next interview, but we're going to publish it 24 hours earlier on Wednesday, again, on YouTube, at Getting Overcast. And lastly, please remember,
I happen to love the number 5.
hope you do as well. For $5 a month, $50 for the entire year, you can become an official Getting Overhead. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover, sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, and exclusive news analysis posts every week. Again, that is buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. We're a free show, and we would greatly appreciate your financial support. Thank you all for listening to this edition of the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. The Silver King, for the first time in a long time, has a few days to rest his vocal cords, but we will be back soon talking WWE on Tuesday. At this point, it is time for me to sign off and leave you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.